the service over to Sister Rose. Please welcome as she comes.
It is good to be here. Yes. When I think about how good God has been and continues to be every day, He never fails. He's always there at the point of our need, whatever that need may be. So I'm thankful this morning that He has spared our lives, that we couldn't be here today. A lot of people are dying all over this country. And when you hear about the numbers hourly, daily, weekly, it is mind-boggling. So when you look at your own life, you got to stop and say, how did I skip that? Because God's hand's in control. He's in control. So I am thankful. I thought if I rested more this week after having that cold, that I'd be ready to preach to you this morning. And about Wednesday or Thursday, I might not could have said that. But I'm thankful that God is the one that keeps us going. His strength is made perfect in weakness. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the people that are here for the first time, and that Colorado Springs Fellowship can reach out to you and somehow lighten your load, that your children can have a Christmas. That means everything. You know, you can have one child, and it's difficult sometimes to be able to give them what they want for Christmas. But if you have a lot of them the way I did, you know it wasn't possible. Yes. So when I look back over my life and what God brought me through and let us experience certain things, we experience things that we might have compassion for others. Let's see what it feels like. So I am thankful this morning that you are here in Colorado Springs Fellowship, and hopefully we'll send you home today feeling better than when you came. Because I need something. Sometimes we just run around trying to find the answer, and sometimes you just seem like I can't find it. Your children is saying, Mama, are we going to get something for Christmas? And you're trying to make them understand that you can't do it. I've been there. I know the feeling. And so my kids were so young and didn't understand. They would say to me, well, Mama, just write a check. I thought, wouldn't that be easy? It's not that simple. You can't write a check if you have no money. And but I remember one year, Charles and I, we decided we would buy each other a little $10 manicure set. He bought me one, I bought him one, so that we could have enough money to get the kids what they closely wanted. And nothing was more happier that Christmas morning than when you wake up, and my kids would come and have the nerve to wake me up as if I had nothing else to do, and come by the bed and said, Mama, we need you to get up so we can open our presents. And I'm thinking, I'll get up in a minute. They didn't understand anything. And but you know what? I done my best as a mother, as I'm sure every mother and father in this building are doing the same. I'm trying to make this work. I'm trying to get through this. And it's good almost when children are so young that they don't understand. Because if they were older, they would understand the gravity of what's going on now. But I'm thankful that you're here today, and know that we care about you. Know that this church reaches out to people in the community every year. Last year we helped 25 families to have Christmas. And that is the joy of your life, when you help somebody else to do something they couldn't ordinarily do. So we're happy for you today. Know that we love you. So how can you love me? You don't know me. If you know Jesus, you love everybody. And that's the truth. I'm preaching to you this morning from Acts, the 27th chapter. Father, we're so grateful for your blessings, for all that you've done. Thank you for the privilege it is to come to your house. Thank you because you're here. Thank you because you came to meet with us, that you may make every person in this building feel like you care, even though we already know you do. I pray, God, that you would strengthen your people, That you would bring the joy of the Lord. Without that, we cannot make it. Thank you for being my best friend, the love of my life, my reason for living this morning. I pray, God, for the people all over this country that are suffering this morning, families losing loved ones. I ask for you to have mercy. I pray, God, that you would please touch their lives. Lift them up for some way. They don't know how and what happened, but I seem to feel better. I seem to have hope. You're the only one that can do it. And we'll give you glory and we give you honor. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. I'm going to tell you mostly about this story because it's too long to read it. But the Apostle Paul was on a journey. He was getting ready to go to Rome. He got on this ship. And this ship, he told the captain of the ship, I got a feeling we should not sail right now. But he determined that the man on board, the centurion, said, we're not going to listen to you. We're going to listen to the captain of the ship. He would know whether we should do this journey or not. Well, they didn't listen to Paul. The person that's got a communication with God and that have a relationship with God, it's best you listen. They hear from God, you may not. So he asked them, they changed them from ship to ship, but the storm was the same. The storm was as if there was a typhoon, a cyclone, a hurricane. See, sometimes in all of our lives, we go through a time where we're going to hit the hurricane. We're going to hit the typhoon, the cyclone, all these things that somehow can rip away your life in a minute. And so when he saw this, he said, I'd rather y'all didn't do this. Why don't you listen to him? They wouldn't listen to him. But then, a lot of times when somebody tells you something's not good for you, it could be your mom, it could be your dad or whoever, friends. Somebody says, I don't know, that doesn't sound good to me. It pays to pay attention. Now, what happens a lot of times after somebody tells you to do something and you basically don't feel like they know what they're talking about either, then the wind starts calming down and the south wind begin to blow real soft. They suppose since the wind died down that we don't have nothing to worry about. We can make this journey. That man don't know what he's talking about. But what they didn't understand, it was that it was getting ready to rise again. In our lives, sometimes when things are so smooth sailing and we've got things the way we want it, I got a job, I'm with my career and I'm progressing and I've got all these things working for me. Little do you know, the south winds ain't going to continue to blow. So you got to stop and listen. Because the south wind is smooth. It's not ravaging. And that's the way it is in our life. Sometimes it just looks like everything is going so good. How is it? In this life, since it's unpredictable, that things take a sudden change. Not one we expected. We were doing good. We were having a good life. I'm looking forward to my husband's retirement. He's getting ready to retire after 20-something years in the military. Hey, we are going to have a good time. We're going to get rid of all them 7 kids, get married, get out of here, and let us live our life for a little bit. Little did I know that wasn't going to happen. At the time, I didn't know. We go on vacation, we come back, and when I get back the next morning, my husband has a brain aneurysm, 54 years old. Suddenly your life can take this unbelievable turn. One that you never dreamed in a million years was getting ready to happen. He wasn't sick. He was healthy. He was well. But life takes a different turn. Every day we wake up, we don't know what's going to be on today. We don't know what's going to happen. Nobody anticipated the pandemic. Suddenly, all of a sudden, everything started getting ransacked. People dying, and you can't have your freedom no more, and you have to wear a mask, and you got to go here and go there, and your life is totally, you're almost like in a prison. Almost like a prison. And everybody's saying, I want my life back normal. The way it started out, This morning I got up. It looked like such a beautiful, shiny day. What happened? Life takes a different turn. I say to you this morning, the Apostle Paul made it through the storm because he had a relationship with God. And he said to the centurion, you know what? Don't let everybody jump ship. People want to jump ship when things get bad. Sometimes people want a divorce when things get bad. Sometimes children don't know what they're going to do and you don't know what you're going to do. Things get bad. Out without knowing any of it. Understand this. Now they're on this ship. They've been fasting. And there is a hurricane. Yes. And winds start blowing furiously. Every hurricane we have, they name it something. They used to name them after all women until women start complaining about it. I said, what about the men? You know, we ain't just hurricanes. There's some men that's some hurricanes. Yeah. So they complain about it. If you got enough money in this country, you can complain about something, they'll change it. After a while, Hurricane Albert came out. Hurricane this came out. They changed the name because you're not just going to keep putting a woman's name on a hurricane. But this name was Euroclydon. I don't know if that's male or female. But these winds began to come at 193 miles an hour. Sometimes you're doing good if the wind ain't too high. But when it starts escalating trouble in your life and getting higher and higher, you start thinking, are we going to survive? We spent a lot of time at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. My husband was in the military, and it was known for tornadoes. Texas and Oklahoma, right in the panhandle, they had tornadoes all the time. There's sirens going off on a constant, telling you to take cover. Sometimes the storm came and sometimes it didn't. So he said, this wind is getting higher. That's where you look at your life sometimes. You look at it and you think, wow, it was really calm out there, but the wind is picking up. The wind is rising. What does that mean? We may lose something. It may blow my windows out. It may hurt somebody. I don't know. And then the higher that wind gets, the more you feel like, oh my God, what are we going to do? One time we were in Oklahoma and they said tornadoes coming, take cover. I didn't have no shelter, just my house, government quarters, and that's not hardly shelter. And they said, get in the closet, get in the bathtub. That's bathtub without water. Get over in there. Nothing is worse than when trouble comes unexpected and you find yourself in this position, I don't know what to do. Where do we go? You look to your husband, you look to your wife, you look to your children, to family. Somebody to help us, but they can't always help you. We tend to look to people who are limited as you are. The only person that can help you without limitations is God. But most of the time we don't have him in our life. He said it was unwise for you to sail at this time during September and December, very violent winds in the Mediterranean. And Paul said we shouldn't take that trip. Bad timing. But they took it anyway. Now the storm continued to escalate. The people became frightened. And what they were getting ready to do was leave the ship, jump into the ocean. Leave the ship. But there's no shelter in the ocean. That's where the wind is blowing in. That's where the storm is. That's why it's really, really heavy. He said to the centurion, tell the people don't jump ship. Because if they do, they won't be saved. Because there's no protection in the ocean. If they stay on the ship, they'll be saved. But Paul, being an apostle, led of God, he had a journey he had to make. And God said to Paul, the journey that you must take, nothing will stop you from getting there because God's in control. And he said, all the people on the ship with you, all of them, they're going to be saved because they're with you. You know what? You need to stop and ask yourself who you're running with. Because the folks that when Jonah got on the ship, that was bad news. I mean, the whole thing was going crazy. They went down there and said, these people didn't hardly believe in God. And I said, but what have you done wrong that we got this storm at sea? And Jonah said, I'm your problem. Throw me overboard and everything will calm down. So, without a doubt, you cannot survive in this world without God. If you don't remember anything else today, remember that it takes God to help us to cope with life, with its unexpectancies, for the things that get us sometime and they're so drastic. All of a sudden, all these things, and sometimes it's just not one thing, it's several things that's got us in the game, and we're trying to figure out how to get through this. Our life consists of many, many storms, many obstacles coming your way. And I look at people sometimes and I think, okay, come on. Why don't you give the Lord a chance? You tried everything else. Give him a chance in your life so that when the storm does come, you are anchored already. No storm can uproot God. No storm can blow him out because he's all power. He's in control. I learned that early in my life. Quit putting God second. Quit putting him at the background of your life. And then when trouble comes, you don't have nobody to support you. You say, well, I said, God have mercy. Yeah, but did you honor him before that? Did you pray before that? Did you go to church before that? Did you trust him with your life before that? That's what you got to think about. Because if you did, when the storm comes, you don't have to fret. You don't have to worry. Because God is right there to take care of his people. Everybody's not living for God. And you may ask yourself this morning, have I got a relationship with God? And think about it. No, I really don't. I go to church every now and then. No, we're talking about commitment. And that commitment means I'm going to set aside time for God, and everything else comes second, but God comes first. After they got through going through all of this turmoil, and Paul said, after much time had passed, much time, we ended up in a place called Fair Heavens. You think that, well, that seems like a nice place, except it was horrible for storms in the wintertime. And they got to Fair Havens, and they couldn't get out. So they were up against it. You got to look at your life this morning and say, I'm up against it. I got to get out of here. And they said some of our people went yesterday and was finding out what people needed for their children. And they said, let us help. Parents cried. Parents were hurting. Parents were desperate. Something needs to happen for my kids. We're down to 4 or 5 days before Christmas. Something needs to happen. How can I make it happen? And then God sends some people from this church to you. And how is it that with you got picked out? How is it? Because God's hand reached out to you and said, I care about you. You may say, some parents say, I've been praying, God, what are we going to do? How are we going to get through this? How are my kids going to have a Christmas? God said, I heard you. I heard what you said. I felt your pain. And believe me, I'm here to give you a hand. To a stranger you never met before. But God knows who they are. Send them down at this place and let them check on people. And there's some people down there who need to know that some kind of way things are going to work for me. I didn't think it was at first until I ran up on these people. And all of a sudden I thought, God, I got a way out. I can tell my kids, you're going to have a Christmas. I know what it feels like. God knows what it feels like. That's why he's got Christians in the earth, not just Colorado Springs Fellowship, but all over the earth. There are good-hearted people. People that love God, that God is putting in the way of where you're at so they can help you. Because we care. He cares. Don't you ever forget that God does not care. You know the person who gets told, Well, why did God let this happen? No, no, no. Let us not blame God. Let us deal with where we are. Because if you're serving God and you have a relationship with him, rest assured, he hears you. He hears you when it seems like it's impossible to get through this situation. The journey's been difficult. Sometimes, you know the old saying that we say a lot of time, when it rains, it pours. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. If things look darker than ever. I listened to a mother the other day on TV, and she's 20 years old. She's a single parent. And she said, I'm being evicted. I have no place to go. And it was the most saddest thing. And I thought, I wish I knew where you were. She said, I only have one more night. They said, well, the landlords don't have a choice. They could show some mercy. They could show some mercy and try to understand the condition these mothers are in, these parents are in, and their children is out in the cold. Can you imagine living in a car as cold as it is right now? Living under a bridge, finding a dwelling in a shelter. Every time you lay down at night, you ought to look up and say, God, thank you for providing for me. And when you made a way for me, I'm going to reach out to somebody else and help them. We got to care. We got to reach out. We got to say, look, let me help you with that. He's told us in the words that bear ye one another's burdens. Get up under it. Help me so it's not so heavy. We have a cold world. People care less now than they ever cared before. When I was coming up as a little girl, if you didn't have food, the next door neighbor would share with your family. You don't see that anymore. It was nothing for the next door neighbor to come over and say, Mama would say, can she borrow a cup of sugar? Can she get 2 sticks of butter? She gonna make a cake, except she ain't got nothing. And you come and ask us for the butter, the sugar, and you have a cup of flour? Or do you want to make a cake or not? I have nothing to make it with, but I sure would like to have a cake. And as I was a young girl, I used to think, well, why you gotta have everything? Just keep living in this world. Grow up and see how life plays us hands that we don't know nothing about it. I want you to look at your life this morning and say, where am I at in my life? Did I have time for God? Or was he ever a part of my life? What is this? It makes you think. This pandemic got a lot of people thinking. Because it tore up everything. The financial empire of this nation. I mean, all over the place, everywhere you look, pandemic, in the stores, on people's jobs, it's everywhere. You think it's time to say, I think I need to build a relationship between me and God. I think I need to go to him. I need to ask him to forgive me for the fact that I put you second in my life. But if you'll get me out of this situation and give me another chance, I promise you, I'll give you time. I'll take my kids and I'll go to church on Sunday. And I'll do things different than I've done it in the past. Because this is a shock to the world. You can call it a China thing if you want to. No. China couldn't create something that covers the entire earth. I think God is saying, are you going to listen to me? Are you going to hear me? I love you. I love you so much until I gave my son's life for you. He suffered like a dog at Calvary because I cared. And you just keep ignoring me. You act like I don't matter. You act like he's not important. You say you go to church? Not really. We're not into God's stuff. You better get into God's stuff. You better get into God's stuff. When they first started on the journey, it looked like it's going to be an easy journey. That's the way our life is. things come into play. We get an education, we get a job, we get married, and we have children, and everything is going great. It starts out, but somewhere on this journey, the winds became contrary, out of control. And when you say, I don't know what happened, I feel like I woke up and a storm hit my life, and I don't know what happened. Things are not where they need to be. The journey is difficult. Life's journey is a difficult one. Before I could even get over the death of my husband, my 29-year-old daughter passed away. You say, what's going on? I wasn't worried about what was going on. I knew that life deals you certain hands that you can't control, but God does. And when I can call on him and pray and say, help me, and he helps me. Oh, the relief. I thought this morning when I was coming to church, and God, I wish that our church was big enough that we could take care of every family that is hurting today, that we could make a difference, that we would give hope to people that needed hope. Paul said, after everything looked like our life was over, the storm, we can't win this one. He said, looks bad, but we got to stand up. But Paul said, an angel of God stood by me this night and said to me, Paul, there will be no loss of life because you must complete the journey I'm sending you on. There will be no loss of life, only the ship. But at that moment, the ship was good, but it wasn't good enough. So as they continued to go and fight with this storm, they got to the place where they couldn't control it no more. They said when they tried everything they could try, they could do nothing but give up at this point, because now this ship is going under. The winds are so hard, it will beat that ship to pieces. Let me tell you something. In your life, you better know what ship you on. But if God ain't the one that you're with, everything else is a temporary fix. Everything else is a temporary substitute. It will not hold up under the storm. But if you got God, it'll hold up. You say, how did you get through it? Because God helped me. God helped me. This is too much to handle. And you'll still find people today saying, I don't think serving God's going to make any difference. Yes, it does. Take it from me. I've been serving Him for 53 years. It makes a difference. And I said to my family, I said, you know how good it feels at a time like this that we're not afraid because our trust is in God. We're not worried. We don't have to worry about anything. God's going to take care of us. And it's a relaxation. It's not this feeling of tenseness and fear. And will the next pandemic outbreak, will it include me? You don't know. But one thing you can know is whether or not you're connected to God. Because that's in your power to do that. That I'm going to God, I'm going to make a difference. Yeah, that's all people talk about. Going to God. If God was all that loving and all this, why did He let this happen? No, don't blame God. God's been good to all of us. To all of us. I want you, I cannot say it enough, to look at this situation as an eye-opener. I started thinking. I started not just going down the same road, because I need things to change. I need something solid in my life that when the storms come, I can survive. That it won't destroy me. I will come out whole no matter what. When everybody else is gone and can't make it, how did you make it? Yes, there's a lot of people. I said, God, please have mercy on these families. Have mercy. They show clips of different ones who've been victims of this pandemic, and oh my God, and the families. This one nurse that was on TV, her mother was killed with the pandemic, and 3 days later, her husband died. And she was so distraught. She said, what am I going to do? Mothers have a lot of value. You know, if something happens over here, I can go talk to mom. If my kids, I go ask mom to lend you the money. Yeah. I probably lent more money since they've been grown than when they were little. Because the minute something get wrong, you know what they say? Did you tell mama? Why you won't tell me? Well, we're going to the person who can do something. I always do that. But today, the good thing about this journey, it came to an end. The ship was ripped apart. The reason why they didn't drown, the reason why they didn't die just before they got to shore, because God told the Apostle Paul, no life would be lost. And when God says something, rest assured, it is what it is. It is what it is. They came to land, and they were so happy. And they cast it on some island called Melita. And he said, when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat and fastened on his hand, talking about a snake. And when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang on his hand, they said among themselves, no doubt this man is a murderer, whom though he hath escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffereth him not to live. But Paul shook off the beast. What can you shake off that's a problem in your life? He shook off the beast into the fire and felt no harm. Howbeit they looked when he should have swollen or fallen down dead suddenly. But after they had looked a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god. Ain't that just like your enemy's waiting? He's going to drop dead any minute. Oh, things going to go bad for him. And they sit there and wait for you to drop dead. That's what they looked at for the Apostle Paul. But when the beast, when the snake hooked onto his hand, the power of God, he just threw it off. No hurt, no pain. Now the people that's looking at you, accusing you of being something wrong with you, and you escaped the sea because you such a no good person. Here's the snake gonna kill you after you get to land. Boy, have I had a lot of people tell me stuff like that. Just sit there and watch for it. Just watch it. You'll see. She might be doing well today, but yeah, ain't nothing worse than a gossiper. And somebody who waits to see you fall. And as sure as you serve God, you'll never see it. You'll never see it. I want things to go rough for you. And then they talk behind your back and say, well, you know what they've been doing, flying high, they say. Oh, it's about time for them to learn some things like the rest of us. What is wrong with this world? That I wait for your downfall and gloat in it. And glad it happened to you. But what you sow, you reap it. If you rejoice over somebody else's downfall or misfortune, one day it'll come your way. And you'll want somebody to have mercy for you. You want somebody to please help me, but you didn't help nobody. Everything we do in our life, everything is a seed that we sow. If you do good seeds bring a good harvest. If you sow bad things come from bad. So what are you going to do? Some people are paying for things wrong they done in their life, and they should have made it right a long time ago, but they never did. I went to see a lady at the rest home one time. My church went there, and this lady was sitting in a wheelchair, and I wondered why she was in the rest home, because she wasn't that old. She was in her early 50s. And I went over to her, and I said, how are you? She said, honey, I guess I'm doing about as good as I can. She said, you know why I'm here? I said, no. She said, you won't believe how bad I treated my husband. She said, I dogged him on a constant. She said, that's why I'm in this wheelchair. That's why I'm in a rest home, for the wrong that I did. And when you do somebody wrong, you're going to know it's coming back to you for what you did. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. Can't get around it. I made it a point, said this to my kids. So many people have lied on me, my children, this church. I said, make the Lord a promise you'll never lie on anybody. That's a horrible thing. Till I got my daughters to the point that they didn't want to trust nobody. If you can't trust the people in the church, who can you trust? I've been pastoring now for, oh my God, almost 50 years. And the pain we have suffered, the wrongs, the evil, all these things. But in spite of it, you rise above it. Give God the glory and reach out again. Don't let one bad situation or 10 bad situations stop you from doing good. And so many times that's what happens. But if you abide in him and he abides in you, the scripture says you can ask whatever you want and he'll give it to you. To abide in him means to keep his commandments. To abide in him means to do what he has told us to do. So if I'm there, then when I start praying, he's going to answer. He's going to make a way for me. In spite of how difficult it may seem. Ask yourself this morning the question, are you estranged from God? What kind of relationship you have with him? Is he the most important person in your life? He should be. God ordained family. He ordained marriage. But when we take it and make it number one and put God at the end of the line, things go wrong. When we put him at the front of the line, he takes care of everything behind you. You don't have to knock yourself out so much. Work so hard because God's in control of taking care of those things that you can't take care of. How important it is. Have you been separated? You have no relationship? Ask yourself. I hope I see people in this service this morning saying, I'm going to turn this around. By the grace of God, I'm going to turn this around. And you can. And you can. I turned my life around with his help. I was messed up. I was bitter. I was angry with the world. I didn't love anybody. I had so much hate in my heart. And nobody could take that out and change that but God. You said, well, somebody hurt me, and ever since then, I haven't been able to forgive them. You got to forgive. If you don't forgive, you destroy your own life. You don't destroy the person. I had a lot to forgive. But I made up in my mind, I won't live my life unhappy and depressed and sad because somebody did me wrong, and I'm waiting for the day for you to rot and drop into hell. That's what I'm waiting for. You know, every time the person do you wrong, have you noticed it takes a long time sometimes before anything happens to them. And you just sit up mad every day. You still living? He's still over there? He still got a job? I want to know when God's going to get him. He's going to get him, but not on your time. Because we want to do it today. You did me bad this morning, I'll get you this evening. They don't work that way with God. They may go for weeks, months, sometimes even years. I haven't done you wrong, and you just sit and think, wonder why God never did nothing to them. Their day is coming. But don't you stand, you know what, that's like going out in your garden and planting some tomato seeds or some type of vegetable seeds, and then stand there and look at it. I sowed them seeds, where are you? You know how long it'll take you to see a tomato? Oh, you think I'm tired of it. I stand there in the hot sun every day waiting to get at least one tomato. What is the problem? But if you go on, plant the seed and go on with your life, and you go back there one day and it's tomatoes running all over the place, and it didn't seem like a long time, that's because you didn't stand there and wish you'd hurry up. So I'm going to go ahead and be busy with my life in the meantime and not concern myself with all this stuff. You can do more of a blessing to your enemy. It's when you get busy with your life, you don't have time to think about what they're doing. Because the truth is, if your enemy had a life, they wouldn't be running your life down. That's the truth. Keep on doing good. You don't lose nothing. You gain. And God sees every good thing we do, every good seed we sow, and he rewards us accordingly. How important is it? So look at your life this morning and say, I need to get up. Because if you don't get up, the devil will push you so low down in a hole, you won't be able to think in the morning. You won't be able to get out your bed. Depression will have you in a horrible state. And nothing is worse than being depressed. I experienced that maybe 35, 40 years ago. That's a horrible feeling. I was in Germany at the time. Charles was gone to the field all the time. I didn't drive. And there I was while he's gone. I have no way to get around unless you get somebody in the military to take you someplace. And I got tired of asking, so I didn't go. And I remember thinking, boy, I don't want to be over here in this country. I want to go home where people speak English at. I run around and people, by the time you think you're talking to a person that's an American, they go, I think, what is this? We got lost one time and stopped this man. He looked like he was black, but he was from Africa. He didn't speak our English, our language either. He walked and said, oh, there's a black man over here. Go ask him about directions. And he said, yup, 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 yup. I thought, oh, my God, this ain't working. Because this man, he don't understand English either. Here we sat. I thought, I need to go home. That's all I could think about. I need to go home. But you know what? After a while, when I gave my life to God and I started thinking about God more and more, the more difficult my life became, the more I thought about God. And I remember, if you've never been to Germany, they have their bathtubs are different from ours. So they're real narrow. You better not be fat. You have a problem. Real narrow tubs, and they're about that deep. So when you get in there, you're there. So I got in the tub that day, and I was crying. I want to go home, and I'm depressed, and all this garbage. And all of a sudden, I hear this voice say to me, why don't you just end it? I answered right back to the devil. I said, I ain't that stupid. And it ain't that bad. I'm not ending my life. No. I can either go home. I'm not getting ready to drown myself in a German tub. No, that wasn't going to happen. I couldn't swim anyway, and I couldn't swim in there if I did. You wouldn't have room to turn around and do anything. But listen, maybe you're one of those people that's depressed today. I got up this morning feeling like life sucks. What is it today? Then your husband gets his head snapped off. When you going to get a job? And he says, well, I've been trying to get one. A lot of people can't get a job right now. Did you marry for better or for worse? The pandemic says I married for worse. So when things ain't going right, quit blaming him for all the bad things happening in your life and take responsibility for it, except blaming somebody. I expect you to care about some things. And he said, honey, I do care. Well, you have a nice way of showing it. And he says, well, what else can I say? You can't say nothing because you're going to chop his head off again. Or vice versa. Yeah, stop for a minute. Say, you know what? I'm going to learn to be happy in spite of. You can only do that with God, though. You can't do that by yourself. You'll never be able to accomplish it alone. Because sometimes we have good intentions. We get up and think it's going to be a good day today. Before Charles died many years ago, I I had a lot of issues I was dealing with church people. And my husband was a new convert. He didn't need to hear this. So that day I got up, I thought, I'm so tired of these church people. Lord, Lord, Lord. So Charles come in the room and said something. I said, what do you want me to do? And he says, this kick Charles' butt day? And I said, oh, honey, I said, I'm sorry, it ain't about you. I said, I'm just tired of these people. Every time you look up, you pull them from this hole, they get in another one. You pull them from that hole, they get in another one. It's like, when do you wake up and realize you shouldn't keep doing the same thing? Pastoring a church is like having a place full of children. Now, they don't want you to treat them like children, but that's how they act. It's unbelievable. Don't be acting like I'm a kid. I'm fully grown and mature. No, you're not. Have to learn to keep going. Put your arms around them. Love them anyway. God had to fix me for that. You can't do that by yourself. You would have already packed your bag and said, I'll see y'all. Where you going, Sister Rose? Wherever you can't find me. Yeah. Can't do it. Can't do it. So this morning, I hope that you'll leave the church feeling like I feel better today. A lot of things I've said to you today, you will remember them after you're gone. Come back to your mind. I need to listen to what she said was good, and I'm going to try it. Don't kick giving God number one in your life. Hey, don't kick that. Give it a try. See how well it works. And I'm here to tell you it works. I gave my life to the Lord when I was in my early 20s. And it's 53 years later. And not one thing in my life would I change in 53 years. Because every time there was a crisis, every time there was pain, every time there was disappointment, God was there to lift me up, to give me strength. He'll do the same for you. If you're sitting here this morning and say, Sister Rose, you know what? Would you pray for me? Yes, I will. Yes. Our musicians and singers will be singing and ministering here. And if you want prayer this morning, just strength to get up. Just strength to move forward. We're going to do our part to help you every way we can. But there still may be something that's not quite working. Not quite working. You know what I notice about people? You ask them what they need, then you know what they'll tell you? Well, if I just had $50. It's not $50. It could be $200. It could be $300. You're already in a bind trying to ask somebody. None of us want to ask for help, but sometimes we have to. We have to. Say, you know what? I need help. When you're doing good and you take care of yourself all your life and you ain't had no rough times, the last place you want to be is on the other end of the stick asking for help. But please understand that this church cares about you. But always say what you really need. Even if it seems like it's too much, still say what you need. You never know when somebody can say, here you go. See, I've been there. I needed to borrow just a few dollars. Just a few. I went to the lady that time and I said, I practiced looking in the mirror. How are you going to ask for that? Okay. Could you lend me $50? That don't sound right. I look in the mirror again and says, could you let me have 100? Hard, because nothing's worse than being turned down after you say, I need something. What I do with people when they come to me and say, Sister Rose, this is what I need, I know they need more than that. I always give more. Because I just didn't want to ask for all of it. I'd rather ask and take a chance that somebody will reach in and say, here it is. I care about you. know this morning that Jesus cares about you. Yes. And if you need prayer, won't you please come? Give me a chance at least to pray for you. You will feel better. Do I have all the answers? I wish I did, but I don't. The only person to have all the answers is God. You know what? A lot of people don't even go to churches today because they think nobody cares anyway. We care. Colorado Springs Fellowship, we care about you, about your pain.
I'm glad that man, he didn't let teardrops fall. You know what? I know he'd find joy in every tear that I shed. Oh, see, and I'm glad that man didn't make heartaches. 'Cause I know he'd give me more. He'd give me more than I could bear. Oh, see, and I'm glad that man, he didn't create me. Oh, Lord, for one day. Man, he sure